Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season premiere of Miss Marvel Generation Y on Disney Plus. And I I thought this was an okay first episode. Like, I was kind of bored with it. Like, nothing really grabbed my attention with what was going on or what they did with Kamala Khan's character. I was just like, okay, this. And then I understand like the whole teenage and parents kind of thing, but there's a thing with the whole kind of central conflict that we get in this first episode. On one point, you're like, okay, I'm on Kamala's side. And then on the other, it was like, the parents tried to like do a kind of compromise, and there could have been a dialogue that went forward to where we didn't have to have this like teen angsty butt heads kind of thing, and it just felt like your typical teen stuff with like surface level dressing like changed out. Like she's a typical teen, she deals with her typical parents kind of stuff, and oh, here's a bangle that gives her powers because yeah. So I I know that Marvel has a sore spot with the Inhumans, and I know that they've like changed up Kamala Khan's whole kind of origin because in the comics she's an Inhuman with different kind of powers, and they tried to do an Inhumans TV show, and that did not work. Then we got a comics accurate Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness, so we'll kind of have to see what kind of goes on. Though I think that Marvel is going to put more energy into the mutants and the X-Men when that kind of pops around. So that kind of sucks because the Inhumans could be dealt with in a pretty effective way and a kind of better way. They were doing at least some kind of stuff with it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Granted, they didn't really get too much into it. But with this, it also is kind of really weird how it kind of starts off because Kamala Khan is a really big Captain Marvel fan. However, the main exposure that we, looking into the MCU, have had through Captain Marvel is her movie and then her popping up in Endgame before the time jump, and then there's the time jump, so there could have been more stuff going on with her that could have made her like have fans and everything, but we're not privy to that. So seeing her be an uber fan of Captain Marvel and like in the beginning saying about how she was vastly really pivotal in the whole thing against the defeat of Thanos and Endgame was just kind of like, what? And evidently she gets this kind of stuff because Scott Lang had like a podcast so that people kind of know more of the gist of what happened in Endgame. And I'm just like, alright, you do you. I mean, I thought it was interesting that they had her have a kind of YouTube channel and doing that kind of stuff. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And they don't really do much of anything with that. Like, they're just like, hey, she's a teen, she's gotta have a YouTube channel. And I'm like, alright? Like, they only just do it in the beginning, and then you don't really see anything else later on it. Like, it could have been interesting for her showcasing her, making her Captain Marvel cosplay and all that kind of stuff, or whatnot. Or her extolling more. Shit, they could have done her talking about different kind of exploits of Captain Marvel through her YouTube channel to fill us in to why she's such a fan of Captain Marvel. Rather than just linking it on Endgame so much. Well, they do that. We see that her friend is pretty much into tech and stuff. Bruno makes some stuff, sees her dad messing with it, and they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's his own kind of Alexis kind of, not Alexis, Alexa kind of thing. Siri kind of thing. It's like, alright, interesting. And then, of course, it goes haywire, and the dad's like, what the fuck is up with this shit? And there's evidently this Avengers Con going on. She wants to go, but her parents have to act like your typical, stereotypical parents. Like, no, there's bad things that are going to be going on there. It's like, really? Did you, like, even, like, research the venue or anything like that. And she has an older brother that's getting married. And she tries to go take her driving test because she was going to help her mom with the errands. And she backs up into the driver instructor's car. And it's funny. They're trying to make it like it's the driver instructor's fault or some other kind of thing. And Kamala's like, no, I backed into his car. There's no kind of saving on that. And then they're hitting her for being like a daydreamer kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, she's thinking about other kind of stuff. And it was interesting to see the things in the background as she's like talking with Bruno. She like goes through school, which they barely kind of spend any time there, except for like the Wilson dude telling her to pretty much focus and stuff like that. I'm like, why doesn't she just like either write things? Because I did like what they did with the Avengers thing with her and granted, this is like one of the only things I really liked in Marvel's Avengers game, how Kamala got onto like this Avengers celebration thing, and that looked a lot better than what the celebration we get to here. It's just like, okay, I mean, yeah, it had a lot of big stuff, but it's like, when she's saying this is like an Avengers Con thing, I'm thinking of like San Diego Comic-Con level shit, New York Comic-Con level shit, and this is like, alright, it's a little bit beefier than like that ball pit thing that I saw with that one failed con, but it's really a lot smaller. And granted, I understand the pandemic affects that kind of shit, you know what I mean? You can't have giant, awesome ass shit like they were probably planning, so they scaled to as best as they could, so I get that. Still doesn't change the fact that I'm just kind of like, alright, this is supposed to be this big ass thing, alright. Let's see. And we just see her friends kind of, but we don't really get that much into them. Like, Bruno's the tech dude and doing tech stuff. One of her other friends who's a girl is kind of like making fun of, well, not making fun. Her and Bruno had a bet about if she'd pass or not, and of course she won the bet because she didn't. And then there's this Zoe chick that Kamala has some kind of beef with. Or like you go through those high school stuff, it's like, alright, she then gets called to this counselor dude's office, and he just tells her that she needs to focus and shit. She's like, I gotta figure out my life and everything. I'm like, I kind of get it, but you're just, I don't have a problem with the actors or anything. Again, this goes down to more of like how they're directing them to pretty much do the same kind of trope stuff and the kind of writing content. Like, there's not much there. It's like, okay, I've seen this in all kind of other stuff, and I can understand that kind of point of view of, okay, you really need to figure out your life. How? Please? Like, I'm trying to see how Kamala would kind of, like, try and do that, but she just doesn't. She's more focused on the Avengers Con, which is fine, but I kind of would have liked her to kind of think about that at least, since there's an external kind of force putting that much into the plot with it. So she comes up with this convoluted, well, she comes up and asks her, she's sad because she did ask her parents to go, and they're like, no, we don't know, it's like the mom doesn't trust her whatsoever, because she did go out and help her with some errands, and was getting, like, fitting for, like, a dress, and they keep calling her too short. It's like, alright, and they're gossiping how this one, chick broke off an engagement, went to go discover herself in Europe. Is like, what do you have to discover about yourself? There's a lot. Who knows, man? They're like, discovering yourself is a process that takes forever. And guess what? Sometimes people don't figure that stuff out even when they die. And sometimes people who think they've got to figure it out are still trying to figure that shit out until they die. So it's like, alright. And Kamala is like, hey, that's kind of cool that they did that. And they just look at her like, whatever. And they're like, you're too short. I'm like, okay, whatever. Her parents shut her down on that, but then the brother's able to kind of like get him to at least consider it, and then they're like, the mother didn't want her in a skimpy outfit, and okay, but then we see Kamala's outfit, and it's not skimpy. This isn't like Red Sonja level kind of stuff. And even if it was Red Sonja level kind of stuff, I'd more just be like, make sure you don't catch a cold or something, but go for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm weird. I don't give a fucking shit. But I don't even know if they even fucking saw what her thing was for it to even be called skimpy. I'm like, okay, tight pants. Woo, they fit. Alright. But their compromise is to essentially send them both as Hulk and to send the father as a chaperone. I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand this compromise, but like, why didn't you just make it for like a Captain Marvel-esque get-up thing? It was pretty much almost like, okay, she's gotta be like, ask, and then the parents have to be stupid and be like, you can't go. And then the brothers gotta go in because the plot demands that there's gotta be this conflict and be like, hey, why don't you both be Hulk? And it's be like, why? If you're even trying to do like a kind of couples themed one, like a partner kind of thing, you could do Iron Man and War Machine, you could do Black Widow and Hawkeye, you could do Cap and Falcon, you could do Cap and Bucky, you could do Falcon and like you could do Cap and Bucky again, but like with the wing, like Sam Cap, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different ways before to be like Big Hulk, Little Hulk. It's like, what the fuck do you have with calling her short and shit? And she's just acts like an asshole and says, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's the plot demanding her being an asshole, of being like shooting this down. I'm like, alright? Like, there's obvious kind of ways that you could have played this to a better advantage rather than doing a whole sneaking out kind of thing. However, they have to go with this teenage route and the sneaking out, so she's got to act like an asshole to her parents, so they go, eat ass, you ain't going, and then she's like talking with Bruno and be like, I made my dad cry, and I'm like, yeah, that's a fucking shitty ass thing to do, but we're not going to deal with that evidently. And Bruno pretty much made her like photon glove things, and they do their own kind of shit. So she comes up with this convoluted thing of pretty much getting out of dinner early, leaving, having this whole kind of time thing, essentially Ferris Buellering the thing with the kind of Zuzu thing that Bruno made, even though we'd seen that it has problems and probably would fuck her over anyway. She's still also looking through with certain cameras to keep a tab on her parents, even though it seemed like they were getting down to fuck at one point, but whatever. Her idea was to pretty much jump on top of the bus. Thank God they didn't do that. They're running late. She accidentally leaves her bike, and they're like, yeah, you're not seeing that bike again. They get to Avengers Con, and they kind of have a good time. We see all this kind of stuff going around. We see that the Zoe chick's there, dressed in essentially... Alright, this is going to be kind of weird. Dark Avengers... Moonstone was kind of doing a Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel thing, which is what her suit kind of reminded me of. It was more kind of like an amalgamation of what we know as Captain Marvel's outfit mainly today, and her old Miss Marvel kind of thing. Oh, and Kamala's grandma sent this box of like junk, and she was looking at this bangle thing, and her mom's like, yeah, that's junk, put that in the attic, and she took it with her because... only one bangle was going to put her own kind of style onto her Captain Marvel cosplay. Like, I would have been interested to see what other kind of touches she would have done with it, but it was just like, let's just do this bangle. It's like, alright. So, they start calling up the whole kind of stuff with the Captain Marvel cosplayers. She accidentally leaves the white gloves in the bathroom. And she's able to open it, puts it on, it starts doing some weird shit to her. She starts seeing some weird shit too, gets on there, acts kind of drunkish kind of shit, and then starts doing some power kind of stuff and accidentally knocks down an Ant-Man head, and it starts rolling through and creating destruction. And the Zoe chick's like, "Hey, do you do parties and shit?" And it's just like, "All right." And then a Mjolnir prop smacks the shit out of her, and like, she should have died. I'm like, there's a lot of people gotten hurt and shit with this. I'm like, all right, I get that. Utilizing powers for the first time, she can go nutty and hoo-hawed and everything, and she's able to get out with Bruno, and they get back to her house like at 11 something. She gets in, her mom berates her. She's like, "Why are you doing this? We didn't teach you this way." It's like the way you like fucking treated her throughout to this point, it leads to a logical kind of conclusion to this, even though I've only seen you guys in like this almost 50-minute episode, so whatever. And she's like, you gotta choose to either be who we brought you up to be or some head in the clouds cosmic. Ugh. And she chooses cosmic as her hand glows and does shit. It's just like, alright, cool. Like, I was interested to see what other kind of stuff, like, learn, since she's Pakistani, she's Muslim, and I don't need it to be, like, plastered everywhere, you know what I mean? Like, but it was kind of cool to see certain stuff, like certain foods and certain kind of jewelry and clothing and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully they'll dig more into that, but it just seems like surface level stuff at this point, and I'm just like, okay, because her parents just seem to be like the same kind of parents that you've seen in any kind of thing, which works. There's nothing that connects me with any of the characters in here. Like, it's not horrendous, you know what I mean? If you connect with it, glad, happy. If you like it, cool. I just was kind of bored, just kind of like, alright, okay. And then it just follows the kind of sitcom stuff of, like, parents being stupid, kid being stupid, and you kind of balance it out that way, except this time you got kind of, like, cosmic powers and shit. Then we got an end credits kind of stinger, where we see the damage control's like, hey, this person's utilizing their powers, we're gonna have to deal with this shit. And then it's like, alright. So this is set up more as kind of like origin story, so I don't know if there's going to be an antagonistic force or like a big villain, or if it's just trying to get her to understand what her powers are, who she is. Her mom's playing off that her grandma's crazy, and it's like, I don't know, she's got some kind of cosmic item that can do some kind of weird-ass power shit, so she ain't that fucking nuts. Unless she's been, like, rolling around doing some weird shit with it. But I was just overall bored and really didn't connect with anyone. And not mainly because of the acting, but mainly, I think, because of the content and the direction. Because it's like, okay, I got nothing to really think about or go with or just, like, try and dig into a character. It's like, alright, typical teen, parents aren't letting them do anything. Typical parents, control freak kind of shit with their kids. And we just swap it out for like an MCU kind of palette. Now granted, I could be fatigued on certain Marvel things. That could definitely be a thing. Because it might get to a point where, well, I still have these, so I'll at least check in on them, see what they're doing or anything like that. But recommendation-wise, if you're not into Ms. Marvel, I'd say it's okay to skip it. You could wait until it's all out and then kind of get a couple more episodes, because it could change. Moon Knight got a little bit better for me as more of this stuff got in and they started really delving into the kind of Egyptian mythology and all the different stuff with the gods. So there is potential for that kind of stuff to happen here as well. So yeah, we'll kind of see how this kind of goes. But at this point, I'm just like, eh. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.